We're going to call the special city council meeting to discuss the Camp Wewa property located at 221 Binion Road, council meeting to order. Commissioner Smith, can you give us a prayer and pledge, please, sir?
Soon after the prayer, Father, we come once again thankful for all the blessings bestowed upon us. For this opportunity, Father, for us to come together for the betterment of our city, to make a difference in the lives of our citizens. We ask now, Father, for your guidance, your direction, and that we would do things that are pleasing in your sight. We ask these in our Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I want to, start out real quick. I've got a video and some slides I want to run through, but I want to start out first with a couple of people and departments I need to recognize. And, one of the things that Edward and I, when we came in, almost 3 years ago, one of the things we felt like there was not a lot of cohesiveness, that the departments kind of were in their own little silos, and that we weren't working as a 500-man team. We were, 50 here, 20 there, and so I just want to let you know what it's taken us to get us to this point. And it's everything from Public Works working to figure out the water and the sewer lines. It's the building department to find out what we would need to get completed, fixed quickly. It's community development, especially Nicole Kennedy, putting this whole application together. Been an unbelievable exercise in patience and hard work. Parks and Rec, looking at how could we make this thing work. And so it's just been an amazing week and a half where we have really come together as a city, as city employees, coming together for a common goal, and that is to get to the point where we can apply for a $1 million grant from DEP and the federal government to help us fund what could be a purchase of Camp Wewa. So hats off to everybody who had something to do with it. It's been a journey, and I forgot IT. IT obviously put the survey together for us. So I hope matter of fact, I was looking at it. Everybody has touched this other than police and fire, and before this thing is done, they will be there to make sure we're in compliance. So it's truly been for me, it's heartwarming to see what the city can be, and without the help of everybody across, the different platforms, we wouldn't have done this. So with that, we're going to see what I can do. I've got, this was Bob and Kelly and I's attempt at a video here. I'll start it for you. Okay, you got it? So anyway, this is the entrance to Camp Wewa. So Shepherd Lake that would be on the northern side of the property. Then in the background, you can see that's Upper Lake Doe, which would be the east side of the property. And you're coming around to the right there, which would be the south part of the property, is Mud Lake. And it's grown a lot. So a great location. So the map, you've got some maps with you, should be in your packet. It would be a little better, but one of the things you need to understand is it's 39.5 acres of developable land. This will give you all of the buildings we've got, and there's also, you should have that in your packet, and it should be available to anybody that wants it. Cabins for, got, I think, enough for 60 people, kids and adults, 4 different campsites. All double bunk beds throughout. Craft pavilion down by the lake at Lake Shepherd. They even have paint still left there. Lake activities, you can see the canoes down there. We've got so the ability, we even have a ski nautique boat out there. So now as you're coming, this is going from Shepherd Lake down toward Upper Lake Doe. It's just a very, very peaceful trip. Open air pavilion right next to the chapel, so you could do weddings, church services there. Dining hall is massive with a great commercial kitchen inside that you could feed hundreds there. Target Sports there. A junior Olympic sized pool that has I think 6 lanes. So a really awesome pool there. Never forget having the platform that I was scared to death to jump off this 10-meter platform there at Camp Wewa. Basketball courts need a lot of work, but obviously that's something you'd want to fix up. Upper Lake Doe, that dock, you can't even see it from the property, so it need to be cleaned out, but obviously it's a brand new dock that would be definitely worth keeping. I think it's more than a 40-foot climbing wall. I can tell you it scared me trying to go all the top of that climbing wall. But what an awesome facility. The high and the low ropes courses right now are almost underwater. Mud Lake has really risen, and so it's be a challenge to get that back. This is the where you come in and you check in. That's the ability to start this whole process. So that's kind of a kind of an overview of the property. I think this is for everybody that maybe couldn't attend tonight. At least gives you kind of an idea what we're looking at. So if we go back, I want to go back to I guess now 3 weeks ago when I got the call from the YMCA about this property. And basically, I think it was a courtesy call from the YMCA. He said, listen, we just want to let you know that we're going to sell this property to a developer, and just thought you'd want to know. And at that point, I said, wow, this is amazing. Obviously, having been there, I knew how amazing this property was. So I said, we need to, can you give us a couple of weeks to at least, do our due diligence, and maybe some way we can come up with a plan to purchase this. And so we had our meeting, obviously 2 weeks ago, talked about, can we at least kind of proceed forward? So that's where we got to today. And as we moved along this process, we were talking to DEP, Angie Bright from DEP, who's been an amazing helping Nicole put together this whole packet for you, making sure that we're meeting all the deadlines and guidelines that are required. And so I think we're pretty much in the booklet you got there. We've got, I think, almost everything in there. There's a couple things that we're still missing that DEP will need to complete some transaction, and that will be a survey and 2 appraisals, because the value of the property is over $500,000. So we've engaged 2 appraisers that are and that deadline is the end of the month. So we've got to have this 2 in their hands by the end of the month to meet all the deadlines for this application for this grant money. So we're at the point now that we feel pretty good. I don't know where the slide. We'll kind of go through a couple of slides. There's a couple of them that I think are pretty impactful for you to take a look at. This is obviously the entrance to the park, the junior-sized Olympic pool. That one of the things that we've done in the past is Apopka High School used that for their swim team and their water polo team. So obviously that's something we'd want to look at, bringing back if we were to purchase the property.
Why was that stopped?
I don't know. One of the things that you need to do with the pool is it's got a heater, but I think the cost to run a propane heater would be expensive. I think we could put some solar panels on one of the buildings there that would, at least give us a couple extra months of swimming. But yeah, that's one of the first things you'd want to do. There's the dining hall, which has a massive open area there, which you could seat probably 75 to 100 just on that porch. There's the front entrance to the dining hall. The dining hall probably would hold 120, 150, somewhere in that range, so nice big dining hall. The outdoor pavilion, just beautiful, looks over the lake, that would be Upper Lake Doe. Has the ability to put 4 big, large TV screens up inside the pavilion if you need them. Picnic tables out there as well. And in the back of this is there's a really huge fire pit. I mean, massive fire pit. So you could have, at night you could do s'mores and, those kind of things. Chapel, amazing chapel overlooking the water. So I know there have been quite a few weddings there over the years. Other amenities, obviously you've seen the climbing wall, the basketball courts, which need help, and then Target Sport Archery is right there on the south side of the property. Here's the thing that just was amazing. So we put the post out on Facebook on Friday afternoon, I want to say around 4 o'clock. And we needed to have the survey in to put into the packet for DEP. And by 8 o'clock Monday morning, we had 152,000 people that had taken a look at that Facebook post. We had 5,664 responses, 963 shares, and 2,990 emailed surveys that came back to us. So just an amazing outpouring of support for Camp Wewa. I want to say there were like north of 30 countries, not just the United States, 30 countries represented in this, that they somehow found this Facebook post and had posted, please save it. I think there was 25 or so from the UK alone. So just incredible the reach that we got out there. So here's some of the things that the rental options and the survey which you've got, and here's some of the answers that what people wanted from that: team building, exercises, birthday parties, retirement parties, anniversaries, weddings, and work retreats. All were high on the list. The 3 lakes we just talked about earlier there. Shepherd Lake would be on the north side of the property. One of the things that we're as we move along this process, they calculate the land that they have is on a deed is 70 acres, but we've had our GIS Mike Suver do a kind of a down and dirty analysis, and it looks like we've only got developable land is 39.5 acres, which is above the 100-year floodplain. So not as much land as it would tend to indicate. So Shepherd Lake again. Upper Lake Doe there in the background, which would be the east side of the property. And this is the dock, a real nice dock that was just built last summer. Mud Lake has really, and we had some issues, I know, with some neighborhoods on Binion Road about the water rising in their lakes, like Clear Lake. And I don't know, this is somehow connected, maybe underground, but that Mud Lake is probably half again as big as it would normally be, because the ropes course, which should be dry, and should have been a small field there, is underwater.
Mayor, you might want to, someone just texted, and you may want to raise your microphone because they can't hear.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can see the ropes course that it's underwater right up to the edge. So this is the one, it's hard to see on the screen, but we've got it listed there, and you've got a couple of maps. One of them has the kind of the Mike Suver FEMA map overlay, so it gives you kind of the actual buildable or usable land versus the entire land. But it's got all the buildings here on this.
It's under our Exhibit I.
Okay, Exhibit I, okay. And we'll make this available for anybody that wants to take a look at it. This is a little better. It's still hard to read on our screen, the different buildings that we've got. So with that, I think that pretty much lays out what we've, where we are today. We did get back today, right before the council meeting, but I thought I'd wait till we got here tonight. We've got the appraisals on, remember we talked about selling the property all on Harmon Road, and we got the appraisals back, and one was 2.8, and the other one was 600,000. Is that right, Jim? I should have it some. 1.8 and 600,000. So that's the appraisal. And interestingly enough, I've had a couple of developers, one who's just finishing up a project in Apopka that would be interested in purchasing the property. Now, we don't have any contracts, we haven't even gone to that process, but I've got three interested parties that, without even, asking for solicitations, have come forward and says, hey, we're interested, not only to, obviously they want to make a nickel as well, but trying to help us with our, a goal if that's the will of the chamber to buy the Camp Wewa. So what I thought we'd do then is go through any questions you might have, and if I can answer them, or Nicole can answer them, or Brian, or whoever you need, and then we'll ask for public comment. But we've pretty much checked all the boxes. We had to put, the CIP was in place, the resolution was in place, this special council meeting's in place. So I think by today, we have met every box except the survey and the two appraisals. So we've got I think the numbers were 7,000 for one appraisal and 3,500, I think, for the second one. And the reason that the one's 3,500 is they just did an appraisal over a year ago for the lender for the YMCA. So that's the reason it's so much cheaper. They've already got most of the legwork already done. So with that, anybody want to?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Banks?
Do we have any estimates on the upkeep, maintenance, the cost that would be on a continual basis?
Well,
What would that be?
just based on the numbers we gave them last commission meeting, it looks, I don't know where that is in this packet, but it looked like, from a cash flow point of view, now that the one caveat I say that it will take some dollars from outside sponsors, but it looks like it's give or take a little bit cash flow neutral. So it should be able to carry itself with some depreciation. So some of those, so we can replace the roofs on a regular basis. We do have some capital costs up front. We're looking at, there's zero ADA compliance out there. So we'd have to do some ADA compliance. We'd like to get the water converted over from well water to city water because it's right there on Binion Road. We'd like to get the septic tanks moved over to sewer. Those two things alone be less than $250,000, but so it's a sizable investment. So it looked like, I think Brian had kind of done a down and dirty kind of review of the property and came up with about $150,000 in improvements that would need to be made fairly rapidly, and that does not include the sewer and water replacements.
And obviously, we can't anticipate exactly when COVID restraints are going to be lifted in the nation, but as they do, I think people are going to be so hungry to have a place like this,
Yeah.
especially from the north. So how will we approach marketing this so that we can end up recouping any of the lack during this season?
That's a great question. I mean, hopefully by summer we're ready to go. I mean, I don't know, the time frame that I know that the Y is under some, financial pressures to get this done as soon as possible. So yeah, trying to get all of our numbers together and making that work. They've got a gentleman out there that they brought in from North Carolina that was set to run the program, and I know Brian's met with him, and we kind of preliminary said, hey, I think, could you do this for us for at least a year, kind of get our, our feet wet, kind of figure out what we want to do, maybe run it as kind of what the Y was doing for at least 1 year, get Brian's team together, put together, a plan for next year. I mean, obviously we could start on it now, but I don't want to waste a lot of our efforts until we've got, a firm grasp on the purchase.
Right, and you know, again, if his background is not in marketing, that type, you know, perhaps we could lean on the
I think,
Chamber of Commerce,
yeah,
you know, the economic development, the different things that are there to ask for some help to get that word out.
yeah, I
because-
think I had his resume was in your packet last commission meeting. So, I mean, pretty good, solid resume, and why I'm really high on this guy. So, you know, he's obviously not been doing much with the camp other than, nice thing is he's handy with his hands. So some of the woodwork he's done out there was pretty impressive. So you know,
Who are
he
we
and his wife.
talking about?
What's that?
Who are we talking about?
Dave, he lives on site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get to meet him.
Okay, yeah, he and his wife both live on the site, in the building down by, Lake Shepherd.
Okay, Dave is his name.
Yeah.
So again, it was near breaking even, and I really anticipate an increase as we move forward and start coming out from under this COVID thing. First, of course, in our state, we don't have as stringent rules, but those in the north, as that word is out there, we can approach churches, camps, different ones that
Right,
that do this on a consistent basis, schools, private schools,
right.
and I think they line up.
Yeah, and that was interesting, in talking to the folks, Dan and the team, that only 20% of the revenue were from Y events. So 80% were already outside. Now, you know, from I know they had like Girl Scout, you know, camps. They had, I think, fifth grade camps. They would, you know, just one night overnight. So, I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of opportunities outside of what the Y was doing with the camp that we could, you know, work to increase.
And I love the proposed connector trail, which goes right
Yep.
down to,
Yep.
you know, all of the green tourism,
Yes.
ecotourism. This can all begin to work in and fold in with
Right.
that, so.
Right. Yeah, it's not far from, you know, obviously Lust Road, which gets us to the Wildlife Drive. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yep. Yep. Okay. Commissioner Velasquez?
Well, I have a few questions. One of them is, most importantly, I know you're talking about selling the property. You said 3 interested parties, but we haven't put those properties up for sale
No.
or anything.
No.
So in the process of doing that, how long does that take? And, I mean, when we purchased this property, right now, we don't have the grant, we don't have
Right.
the sale of those properties. How are we going to pay for this?
Well, as far as the purchase, I mean, if we were to sell it, I mean, it probably would take us, Jim, if we had an interested party tomorrow, what would it take us? Because we had to go through it come on up.
For the bid process itself, typically 1 month to 2 months for advertising, just because it's a large purchase. After that, 2 months or so for the actual paperwork and sales. I mean, it's not too hard to do.
So 4 to 5
4
months
months,
is.
yeah, 4 to 5 at the
Yeah.
most.
And then Edward, you can kind of talk about what we have as far as the financial, you know, where we're at and how, you know, we could maybe fund that gap as well.
We also have one other property, the Sandpiper Park Avenue
Which is
property, that would be at least 1.2 to 1.3 million right there.
Got your airport,
but-
your airport too, so you got that income. Keep in mind, you've got about 800,000 in impact fees that you could use. You can front that, because you can use that for that portion as well. So what you would, from a financial standpoint, I think, you know, if you move forward, granted, you have to put the property up for sale. If we take those proceeds to pay for this property, and the grant, we won't know about the grant. It could, again, take some time for the grants come back. So what you could do is you could use some of those other parcels that we have coming in. You'll have that income. You'll have the impact fee income that you can use. And then you could also front some from the reserves. Once, if you put this up for sale, then you can reimburse yourself through the reserves from the sale once you make the decision to put that property out for sale. Those parcels out for sale, you'll use that to put it back into your reserves. So that's a way you can do it as well. So there's pieces everywhere, so it's not a one hit it wouldn't be a big, massive hit to the reserves all at one time, but we could use a portion of those until if you get the grant, you reimburse yourself back for that, and then when you sell the parcel, the other parcels on Harmon Road, then you put that back in, into your reserves.
Yeah, but not only do you have the purchase as an entirety, you have where he said ADA compliance, sewer, city water, that's all an expense on top of the purchase. And, I mean, I have to cover all the bases, I mean, because everyone wants it, and it is a gorgeous park, because we did take the tour. Then you have the staff. We have a really tight budget, we haven't been able to give any raises, we haven't been able to hire
No, we've-
additional staff. And so this is a huge park to put on top of our recreation staff right now.
Well, Commissioner, we have done raises. We have up to 3% raise right now, so we
Okay.
haven't stopped our raises, you know, I mean,
Okay.
we've come down, but we have not stopped our raises. So this is something that I think how you have to look at this is, if you acquire the property and you get the asset, it's another park, I think you have
Right.
to build it into your budget. You know,
Okay.
there are some things that we can say, because we already are in the business of recreation, when it comes to insurance, there's some costs and expenditures that we won't have to pay when it comes on if it was to come on as all of our park system. There's some overlap where we can actually have some savings. You're correct. We would have to have some staff. But that would be an item that you'd have to build into your budget going forward. You know, there's some operating things that we would have to build. You can't, I don't envision us doing all the capital up front. I think you try to find partners that'll help you contribute, help you from a labor standpoint, from material standpoint, things like that. And I think you build your 5-year plan, 3 to 5 year plan of the improvements that you're gonna make. But the park is operational now. So, you know, it can be, there's some things that need to be done, clean up and things like that can be done. And maybe that's a partner community event is that we do to help clean it up and whatever. But I think it's just one of those things where you're gonna have to, you would build your operating in your budget with our parks. They would have to, as they submit their budget to you, this coming budget to you, those would be some items that additional costs that would come on to operate it. You're right, we'd have to have some additional staff. But I think that's your operating plan that they bring together at budget time with their Parks and Rec budget. And then your capital plan would have improvements that you would show that you're gonna make improvements over a 3 to 5 year period. And then like Michael talked about, they really think there's an opportunity for us to get some grants for capital improvements. So again, we can apply for those grants and hope that we get some assistance from that for capital improvements, future capital improvements as well. So you're correct, there will be some operating, and that's a decision that the council would have to make, but I think you build that into your budget with your current recreational facilities that you have.
And by the 5-year budget that we gave you last, and it's in your pack as well, is pretty much a break even from an operating standpoint. So I think, and that's, I don't know that I won't say it's kind of neglected, but I would say we could put a little more focus on that if we owned it versus the Y. So I think the operational side, we ought to be able to get to break even without a lot of trouble. Just naming the park, the Duke Energy Park or the Advent Health Park or something, and, some kind of a reoccurring, sponsorship is always a possibility.
Did we get any feedback from, any partners that were interested in?
Well, I think we're getting the cart before the horse. I think we've got to get, March 1st or something, when we get to the value of the property at Camp Wewa, then at that point, then it becomes, by the first meeting in March, we'll be ready to either, sign some kind of letter of intent or we'll walk away from it. So I think that would be my goal, is that we've got all the information that DEP needs for the grant, and we'll have the number that the value of the property. At that point, we either negotiate or we purchase it or we don't. So.
So I know that we're having a fundraiser on the 13th, and from what I understand, those are the Friends of Camp Wewa.
Correct.
And I don't know who Friends are. Are they already sponsors? or-
No. They're most of them. I had a Zoom call last night with 6 or 8 of them, and a lot of them are former park not rangers, park managers. I've got a lady I know that's from Winter Garden that's a big fundraiser for the Y. So just you know, a group of folks, and I can't tell you, I've probably had 15 calls, hey, you know, how can I help? How can I contribute? You know, so it's, you know, we gotta start somewhere, and, you know, to show our interest, that's just a way of kind of getting this thing jump-started.
So when was the timeline that they're giving us to say yes or no?
They haven't really given us one. I mean, I think their banks are telling them early summer is kind of when they need to be. So, I mean, to me, I'd like to have it up, I'd love to have summer camp up and running. So that would be my goal. If we're going to do it, let's have it ready for summer camps. But obviously, that's the will of the council, if you just, which I think that's doable.
Okay. I just gotta keep looking through this. I'll
Okay.
pass so someone else
Sure.
can kind of ask questions and I
Sure.
can get some more information.
I could piggyback onto that. I'd love to, as far as that goes, even approach the school system and find out what we can do to possibly let the pool be an initial move.
Oh, there we
And
go.
get that
Absolutely.
ready and see if there's funds there that can help.
Yes.
But the question being, they're not in a position that we could do a land swap, so we have asset for asset, and then they go ahead and sell that.
Correct.
We have to sell it and give them the cash.
Cash, yeah. We thought we could do it. The developer who was going to buy Camp Wewa, we thought we could, instead of him buying that property, he could buy ours and then just send the cash over to the Y, but that won't work. He's a single-family developer, and ours is highest and best use would be multifamily, or at least, you know, townhomes or something like that. Mr. Smith?
Let me say, you know, I'm very fond of our youth, and I've always said that we need some more positive things for them to do. And so I see this as another opportunity for providing some additional resources for our youth. And this particular site has some amenities that Pond Can does not, such as the swimming pool, the lake, the canoes, and everything. My concern is transportation, getting kids there. If there's somewhere we could work with links to come up with some kind of a partnership where they would at least provide a bus route that would go there so that people can get to the
Well,
facility.
we've got a 50 passenger, Brian, you want to come up? Come on up.
We have the city owns a bus. The city owns a big school bus that we can certainly use. We've hired drivers before for that. We also have large passenger vans that we've taken for senior trips. So we have some trend, you know, as far as a head start goes, we have a head start on that. And then if we're lucky enough that we need to find more, then we'll find a way, you know, if there's the interest to find more, then we'll find a way to make that work. But we have a head start on
But
that.
we could reach out to Links and looking for a bus stop, because I doubt there's one on Binion Road, but I'll make that call and see I think it's a little more complicated than that, but if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Right. Well, even if they started out with limited services, like starting in the afternoon when kids are out of school
Yeah.
and ran until, you know, whatever time the park closes, and
Sure.
then Saturday and Sundays more often.
Yeah.
Until they saw that there was really a need, then they come with some permanent routes, but at least a start. And I like the idea we have a bus and van, but, because I think getting the kids there is gonna be a big asset to us in making this functional and doing what we need to do. In reference to cleanup, could we use prisoners to help clean that up? or
Sure.
not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things I didn't mention, I probably should, is as you wander around that property, I can't tell you how many different groups have either built this building, or the chapel was, I want to say Kiwanis.
It was the Kiwanis.
And I mean, half the buildings have some name attached to them. So somebody, and that would be the first group we reach out to as far as, you know, some donations. Hey, you know, this cabin was donated by your family. You want to kind of help us out, you know? And so if we were to buy the property, the first thing I'd want to do is have an open house out there, invite all these families and businesses that have donated along the way, come out, see your camp. Here's our vision for improvements we'd like to make. Can you help us?
Okay. And in reference to my church, I know our women, they go on a retreat every year.
Yeah.
They go all over the Lakeland to find a place to stay. And then a couple of nonprofit organizations that I'm a part of, they go all the way to Haines City to find cabins to stay for the week and have those kinds of activities. So if we got a place right here at home, I think it'll be a great asset.
Yeah, one of the ones I found out about, really interesting, Gary Sinise, who is big into veterans benefits, you know, for ones with disabilities, you know, gotten hurt in the wars. He, one week a year, he takes the whole camp over and brings in kids of these fallen soldiers to Camp Wewa. So, I mean, it's, yeah, you know, and those are the kind of stories you hear, you know, yeah, that's where I go. And then two other kind of interesting things as I look through all those comments is former Mayor Glenda Hood was a camp counselor there, and former Senator Mel Martinez was a camp counselor at Camp Wewa. So, you know, we reach out to those folks, say, hey, listen, here's what we're trying to do, here's our vision. You know, we could sure use your support and help, you know, financially, and, you know, and sweat equity would be awesome as well.
Yeah. And I think if we market it, this would be another drawing card to draw people to the city of Apopka. Just come and see what we have to offer.
Yeah. Good. Commissioner Becker.
Save the most verbose for last. You know, I guess really what the point of this meeting tonight is what? Are we deciding anything, or we just, it's just for discussion purposes?
It's check the box for the DEP grant.
Okay, that's what I figured, okay. So I won't get into too much of the weeds then, because, you know, really, and just to kind of piggyback on the rest of the council has said thus far, it's a few different things at play here, right? First and foremost is whether or not we should or should not purchase the property. And I think, you know, when you think brand alignment for the city of Apopka, I think Camp Wewa and city of Apopka, I mean, I don't think there's much argument there. I mean, it seems to just go together because we have such a emphasis on that eco kind of enjoyment, ecotourism kind of thing with the springs, with the Lake Apopka, Wildlife Drive, all these things kind of play together. So I don't, you know, obviously there's no debate for me there. To piggyback off Commissioner Velasquez's point, talking about the purchase. So, you know, going into this, my assumption would be that the purchase price would be kind of an even exchange. We would find the sourcing without having to go into anything else in order to do it. So we've got, looks like we've got $2.5 million in current appraised. That's just, if we take that for what it's worth, $1 million in grant, and then potentially $1.5 million for Sandpiper. That gets you right at 5, assuming that it's plus or minus from there. Okay, because then a purchase then becomes a purchase. We still retain that value. It's just in a different location. Yeah. Great, but then the real kind of the brass tacks comes down to the OpEx, right? It's, you know, I think with the city of Apopka, Parks and Recs has been such a loss leader for our city, right? I mean, we take a 70% bath on the Parks and Recs fund. I mean, and that's quality of life stuff. It's not necessarily something that we try to be super profitable for, but you want to get as break even as possible. So, you know, what I would look for is, as we go down the path a little bit further, is maybe make a pro forma of sorts on how you plan to keep this at a break even point. And that's just, that's just table stakes, because I think there is a lot more value, to Commissioner Bankston's point and Commissioner Smith, because when you look at the programming, and it's similar to that pie graph, you have swim meets, swim clubs that we could be out there. You have day camp. I was talking to a former executive director for the Y, and they said day camps are very popular. The overnight camp option, if we want to explore that, corporate retreats, weddings, you know, festivals, events, birthday parties, canoes, rope courses, that sort of stuff. All of that is a compelling thing to have at our disposal, for sure. So that's really what I would be interested in, is to see how you plan to, over the next year, 3 years, 5 years, understand from an OpEx standpoint how we can keep this basically neutral. Because, you know, rightfully so, there's other departments in the city that kind of look at this with a skeptical eye to say, hey, look, we've got deteriorating facilities, we've got deteriorating fleet. Hey, you know, we're hurting over here. If we just add yet another asset that then becomes a resource and, you know, financial pit, you know, we're in a bad spot. So we've got to feel comfortable that we're able to sustain that, support it.
And I'll say this. I think that at the very least, over the long term, this should be revenue neutral. On a year and year, taking capital out on an operational income basis. Now, that's at whatever level we want to put it. I mean, we could go as low as we're just putting a playground out there and cutting the grass and picking up the garbage like we do at Lake Avenue, and then, you know, we wash our hands of it, and then there's no real impact on anything on our budget. To the point of doing everything we want with day camps and using the pool and, like I said, ropes courses, boating, crafts, retreats, all this stuff. And the more we put into it as far as both capital, getting it to a certain level so that we could charge a premium, and then putting in the resources as far as manpower and making everything, pretty, that's what we're going to, and being able to staff all these different areas and all these programs, that's going to come back. So that's where the choice is going to be how much do we want over time. And this is not when I look at it, it's not a one-year thing. This is, what's it going to be in 5 years? What's it going to be in 10 years? What's it going to be in 20 years? So how do we want to build it that way? That's how I would look at it.
So the one question I just want to kind of say, do we have, we have these figures that the YMCA provided. We have sort of, I want to call it a bucket list of the things we could do because it's already there. Between now and before we decide to purchase it, can a plan be provided, sort of a strategic plan of how we're going to manage it?
Oh, yeah,
How are we going to start at least getting some revenue out of it?
Well, one of the things, and I think one of the things that I would like to, so I have my own personal vision, and I have a lot of experience with this. I've been a Parks and Rec director since 2008, but before that, from 1976 to 2007, I was a camper up to running a camp. So I have my own vision, but I'm not going against 50,000 people. So I want to hear what the taxpayers have to say as far as what direction do we want to go, as far as how,
Well, and not to speak on behalf of 50,000 taxpayers, but
Yeah.
if we've just reallocated value in our land to this asset, and so the purchase of the land is just a land swap, truly,
Right.
then it becomes, okay, what then? If I have an asset, now I'm able to go out in public space and take advantage of the things that are on this property, and yet it's an expense-neutral proposition. I would think that that's pretty much as big of a win as you can expect from a taxpayer perspective. When I say pro forma, that's exactly what I mean. It's to sit there from your point of view.
Right.
Just assume that you have endless amount of resources to do this stuff. How would you make sure that it's expense or profit neutral? I mean, it should be profitable, but we're not taking a loss on it. And so when I say that, I mean, okay, you look at what the expenses are today. They've got some expenses on here like occupancy costs or contract services that are kind of ambiguous to me. Blow that out. See, does that continue? Does that change? Does that shift based on our ownership? On your salaries, is some of the salary for a director level position? I would assume all of this would fall underneath you.
Right.
So maybe that expense is reduced from a director level position, but you reallocate that expense to some lower level employees to help run the camp.
Right.
During the summertime, can we leverage the Apopka youth programs to have counselors out on property, whatever the case might be? And I'm glad to hear the mayor say it, during, like some of these capital campaigns, finding sponsorship opportunities, that should be evaluated as part of your pro forma. It's to say, hey, in year one, we might get some lower level sponsorships that might contribute this amount, but over a 3-year period, we might find a major capital donor that's willing to take on the full sponsorship of the park.
Right.
All of this built into the pro forma so that we can see, we can point a finger and say, you've got this covered. Yes, we're going to have to hire staff, but we're going to get some of that expense offset with these revenue opportunities to come in. And they've got to be realistic too, right?
Right.
So, but that's my big concern, is to make sure that we're not, this is the new shiny toy. And I hate to use this analogy, right? You win a $40 million lottery ticket and you go out and say, I'm going to buy a $40 million yacht. Well, you can't afford it, because you're not considering the OpEx and expense that you have to maintain it long term. So I just, I think we're all there. I just want to see it on paper.
I agree, and because Brian said you want me to start working on some of the numbers, I said, well, let's wait till we get, let's get the numbers marked. I mean, I guess he could start kind of putting some pencils to paper on some things, but I don't want to get too far down that road without, some assurances.
And icing on the cake, my last comment, and Commissioner Bankson touched on it in terms of economic development. This is an economic tool in the toolkit, right? It's something that you can sell your city on. It's just as much for recreational as it is for quality of life for employers to come in, small businesses, that sort of thing.
And I'll add this, is that we, in our 5-year plan, in the Parks and Recreation 5-year plan, we had money, we had a couple million set aside to build on that property on Harmon Road.
Yeah.
And so, but we can't create Camp Wewa on Harmon Road. I mean, that's not, this is the only.
Right.
This is the only property that we can create this on, so.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing is, so you got $1.8 million in the property we've got on Harmon, and you add $1 million for fields and restrooms and all that.
Right.
You're now at $2.5 million, you've already covered half the cost of, Camp Wewa. And, for me, one of the other things we've got to kind of, be sure we weigh is the why was more of a regional camp. You came from, heck, all over, regularly came from all of southeast, the United States, not just Central Florida. So we have to weigh what the camp has done in the past and weigh what our citizens expect from the $5 million that they've given us to buy this property. And so it's a, obviously overnight camping, we'll have some folks from Apopka, but you'll have people from, North Carolina that come down in the summer or wherever. So we've got the balancing out for us as we move forward is, how do we balance, so if you've got all the camp is booked, let's say all the cabins are booked, and yet our people want to use the pool, is there room for both our, Apopka citizens as well as the campers that are staying at the camp paying $900 a week to stay there? So, those are the things we've got to weigh and make sure that we try to accommodate all, both sides of that equation.
And I see a great opportunity for a lot of volunteerism as well, out of our youth that needs volunteers, community service hours, that they could come there to put in some of their community service hours. And I know the FFA is always looking for a place to hold conferences and district contests and those kind of things. And so that would provide a place for them to go that's local. And we have, 2 or 3 high schools, several junior high schools that has those programs. And so they would be involved in that as well, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to what is our brand? What do we have that no one else has? And, Apopka, with the coming back of Lake Apopka, which used to be one of the #1 freshwater fishing lakes, in the nation and known worldwide, and we lost that. Now that's coming back, and now the trend is, of course, green space, ecology. You have the birding park, which is, we have one of the top birding sites. We tie this together. This is something that can't be reproduced. I think, to borrow your phrase, it's like having Central Park to New Yorkers.
Right. Central
And,
Park for New Yorkers is
yeah.
their gem in the middle of New York City.
And the response, the online response, that's amazing to me. That's, it's like the numbers of the last election. They were just way up there.
Yeah.
And that in relation to the number of people, I think that really shows and speaks that this community would love to see that sustained. And again, to Commissioner Becker's point, we are getting an asset that in the worst case scenario, we still have the asset that has that value. And if we say, you know what, it's just not feasible for us to do, that's still there.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening. I sure don't want it to go that way.
Yeah.
I really think this is a tremendous opportunity and gem. And if we do, again, not leave it aside as the shiny toy.
No,
but
no,
really-
absolutely.
Really focus on this. We're going to be the #1 destination for, green tourism. And I think it's a great move.
It's all on you now, Mr. Foreman.
Commissioner
I
Velasquez,
had a lot
any
of
other?
hope, so.
No, I just, my reservations are, and I know we did get I was so surprised by the responses through Facebook and that. I'm not too sure if it was everyone in Apopka. I think it involved many people that, it was a real emotional attachment, what I saw in all the responses, because they all talked about their own time, their children, and how long it's been there. For me, the concern is, do all the people that said they want it understand what it's going to cost for us to keep it?
Right.
And to everyone's point, it is a wonderful asset. It's a gorgeous park. I just want taxpayers, everyone who's on board to understand that it's going to be a cost and somewhat of a sacrifice right up front. Because by the time we get the sale of the properties we want to sell, initially it is going to be a big investment on our part.
There is, yes.
And to the mayor's comment where he said we're gonna have to find a balance because we don't want the park to be just for all campers. We want our community to be able to freely go and have picnics and take their families. So we want to kind of make that space that, yes, we can have campers and people who will pay to be there, but we also want to make it so that if somebody wants to drive up there with their family and just spend the day, that they have that opportunity.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I was going to open it up to the public.
Just one
Everybody
other
good?
thought from me, of course, in the years past, you've heard me harp on the importance of reserves. But that was one of the points that I did have, to have that extra when there's an opportunity that comes up, that those once-in-a-lifetime things, that we're able to do something about it. And again, I'm very willing for those reasons to bring those upfront costs, that suddenly we have to come up with this. That is a source, again, this has been a tough year, so that we don't dig deep, but point being that that's one of the reasons why I think it is, an opportunity
You mean
in the
we
way.
can go less than 25%?
Yes, because that was part
I
of
am-
my 25.
Oh,
Remember what
my
I read?
God, yeah.
Well, and
That's
just.
part of the reason, is to be able to make moves like this.
Absolutely, and the other thing is, Edward and I have worked really hard. We've reduced our overall debt load by $7 million in the last 3 years. So, which gets us in a position where we can make a purchase like this. 3 years ago, I'm not sure you could have pulled it off, but obviously, we can do it out of reserves. We had to. We can borrow the money. We can, we've got ways of doing it because of the financial shape that we're in. And I know
Sale of
Brian
other
and.
properties is.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the short or midterm would be to sell the properties. But we've got the reserves and/or borrowing power to borrow the money if we need to, short-term to get YMCA in the position they need to get to, so. Okay.
Mayor,
Susan?
can I make a comment real quick?
Yeah, oh, sure.
I want to say, this kind of helps a little bit. This is kind of uncharted territory for us here in Apopka. We've never had something like this or an opportunity like this. And I think the key is going to be to this, you're right, pro forma, we need to put those numbers together and figure out how this is going to fit into our budget, our operating budget, because that is a key component. But I think it's important to realize it's kind of all new to, this is new to all of us. This is something that we have an opportunity here to take on. And I think the key is going to be to apply for the grant, look for all the different grant opportunities that are available. Once we have it, there'll be all kinds of, I think there's more than one, there's several grant opportunities. I think partnering is going to be key. Working with the chamber is going to be important. We have a lot of good partnerships here in Apopka, and I think it's important that I think that's how it works. I think we can all work together to make those improvements. Will they happen all in 1 year? No. But I think what you do is you have that plan. Brian, and his team puts that plan together, and within the 3-year period, we'll kind of know where, at the end of 3 years, we'll have be able to make a lot of improvements and look back on it, I think, and do a lot. The good thing about it is it's already up and running. That's the good part. And we can do cleaning and all of that kind of stuff and come up with those kinds of things. So I think, yeah, it is new for us, but I think, it's one of those things that with all the partnerships and us doing everything, trying to be as efficient as we can be, we have overlap between parks where we can provide some, like I said earlier, some savings to in comparison to what the Y's been operating with, because we already have insurance policies, we already have staff that do certain things in certain areas like repair air conditioners and things like that. So we've got some tools in our kit that will help us. But yeah, so I just want that it's a good, I think, if the council goes this direction, I think it's gonna take all of us working together because this is something new for us. And so I think that it'll be important for all of us as a community, our partners, our citizens have spoken up in the survey. They really, really want the green space. They like this park. It has a lot of value to them. And like you said, you have to make sure that, that we're giving them, it would be their asset. So making sure that they have the use of it as well. But I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential from the rental aspect and everything. And like Mayor said, I think it's important that we get those partners that are currently there, that already have their names labeled and everything, and bring those people together to help. Because sometimes sweat equity and just donating the sweat equity and the materials and supplies, we can get our community together to make it
We
happen,
had,
so.
we had a lot of ideas when we were walking the grounds, which I think we did all 40 acres that day. We walked from one end to the other, but it is beautiful, and you're right, there were a lot of structures on the property that had names, some that didn't, that we thought that, they were up, that we can have someone sponsor it. We talked about Eagle Scout projects that could be done in the park. I mean, we threw a lot of ideas around, but we need to have something on paper that at least kind of say, these are the things that we can start working on and we can at least rely on
Right.
as, sustaining the park and having some use of it right now.
So for any of the commissioners that have not had a chance to get out there, if you want to get with Edward, Dave would be happy to show you around, so just reach out to Edward, and he'll get you the contact, and they can meet you out there at the park, and just so you can take a look.
And I love that this is something I think our community can unify about. So many different groups. We can approach the ministerial alliance. The trust fund, this is one of the reasons that was funded. Things like this.
yeah.
I think everybody can find a way to come together and work together. And what a time after what we've been through, just to bring unity and a common cause that's going to bless our community. I like it.
Okay.
All right. Susan, you got some speaker cards?
Rick Gonzalez.
Okay. And Rick, you need name and address, and you got 4 minutes, please, sir.
My name's Rick Gonzalez. I live up in Northeast Lake County, but I come down here most every month for your bike trails. My son was at that Camp Wewa many weeks. He's 18 now, so he doesn't go there anymore. But I really think it's a great idea. I hope you find the funding. I don't know if the city can do this, but I think you might look to crowdfunding. Maybe go to those 150,000 people, ask every one of them to give you $10, and there it is. I mean, make a fund. I mean, I don't know if the city can do that. But I'm actually here because I'm a commercial realtor, and I have the North Shore of Shepherd Lake for sale, and I'm gonna leave this brochure here. Doesn't sound like you might have enough money.
The
but
North Shore.
That old nursery.
Okay,
outdoors
yeah,
and
right, yeah.
And
Kenny
if you-
Sumner's old
It
property.
would be a real plus if you just owned the lake. Then you can do what you want to it.
I think he wants a little more than it's worth, but
It is,
maybe.
that price is negotiable, and he's very flexible. He's very flexible if you want to talk about terms.
Is
But I'm
that
gonna
the
leave this brochure
nursery?
with the clerk.
Is that the nursery that's next to the park there?
Yes.
Yes, to the North Shore there, yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
okay. I thought that was part of the park, but
No.
then I learned
It could
was
be
the
part of the
nursery.
park, it should be part of it.
Maybe you could crowdfund to get them to pay for that, and then you can just donate it.
Yes. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so he came to sell us something too.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Rich Shohase, and I come to speak to you as a former Wewa Executive Director, Wewa volunteer, a Wewa parent, and most importantly, I come to you tonight on behalf of over a dozen former Wewa directors, 350 members of the Friends of Wewa Facebook page, and over thousands of alumni who have come through Wewa throughout the years. We have blessed to have been part of Camp Wewa for the past 70 years, and many of whom have come from Apopka and the Central Florida area. I lived here in the city of Apopka at YMCA Camp Wewa for over a decade. My kids grew up here. They went to Apopka Elementary, Apopka and Wolf Lake Middle Schools, and we know and love this community with all of our heart. And one of the things that has always amazed me was when we would wear our Wewa gear into town, and how I could not go to Winn-Dixie or Dunkin' Donuts or Kitland Nelson Park without someone stopping me and sharing their Wewa story. We were always proud to be from the city of Apopka, and the city was always proud to share their Wewa story. We saw that love and pride in the survey results this weekend. When I heard the news that YMCA was selling Camp Wewa, I was, of course, devastated. Camp Wewa will always hold incredible memories for my kids and my family, but I felt a loss knowing that hundreds of thousands of people were also losing their homes. And just as bad and sad was the thought of tearing down all those century-old live oak trees with the Spanish moss, and the literal tearing down of every building and memory that Camp Wewa holds for a few homes just for another gated community. I heard Mayor Nelson speak the other night, and as a Wewa camper, or I heard him speak as a Wewa camper, and I heard others share their Wewa stories and how they shared the same goals as I did, to save Camp Wewa. I heard it described as something that you could never recreate, as a gift that had fallen into the city's hands. Well, we agree, but in this case, we think it's that the city is the gift that has fallen into Wewa's hands. When we started spreading the words with our peers and friends, within hours, the Friends of Wewa group got started, and we were born with a new mission, to help the city in whatever way we can to save Camp Wewa. We have met with the mayor and several council members over the past week, and we as Wewa former directors and alumni want to share with you several thoughts. We fully support the mission of the YMCA of Central Florida and understand the current financial hardships it faces. We support and encourage the leadership of the city of Apopka in their bold effort to purchase and preserve Camp Wewa, saving it from becoming just yet another residential development. We understand the city of Apopka may alter the traditional programs that Camp Wewa runs, including overnight camp, but that you guys are committed to maintaining the natural environment and community access. We want to work with both the YMCA of Central Florida and the city of Apopka in their collective efforts to maintain this historic, irreplaceable community asset. We will coordinate with our Wewa alumni and friends, including many of those you saw in those buildings. Those names, we know all of them, and they're all us. And we want you to rally support and resources to preserve this rare and unique community asset for the benefit of future generations of Greater Orlando and the city of Apopka residents. We want the city to know that as much as the Apopka has always supported Camp Wewa, Wewa has always supported Apopka. Many people may not know this, but Camp Wewa was originally not a YMCA camp. The YMCA bought it in 1947 from the Boy Scouts who had been running a camp out there since the turn of the century. Wewa kept many of those same traditions and the feel of the land, and even though the YMCA may no longer own the property, the Wewa spirit will still remain, and we are confident that the city will create its own traditions and become an even more beloved treasure of Apopka. I want to again reiterate that my friends and I will support you in any way, even after the sale, be it visioning sessions, be it some of the other things that you guys were talking about. I've heard some great things already tonight, be it financial, or just be it regular visitors and supporters. In closing, I want to leave you with one last memory. For over 70 years, and I just watched the 1969 Voices of Camp Wewa video, which included Senator Mel Martinez and Glenda Hood,
Okay.
and will verify that this is true. Camp Wewa has always ended each night with what we call the campfire song. The first line goes like this, and don't worry, I won't sing it. I won't scar anybody here tonight. It only takes a spark to get a fire going, and soon all those around will warm up to its glowing. Mr. Mayor, you and the commissioners have provided that spark, and over 150,000 people responded by showing their love for Camp Wewa. Please keep that fire going and take good care of Camp Wewa. And in the Wewa tradition, I will leave you with the last line of our wish boat ceremony where we ended on the last night of camp. It's good night and not goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, Rich, I didn't realize it, I didn't see you face to face, but we had an opportunity to talk earlier this week, and I didn't realize we had such a great hairstylist. But as I was looking at your sweatshirt, I was thinking to myself, you may want to put a tagline to your campaign here, Camp We Want It, you know?
Susan? That's it? Johnny boy, come on down. Commissioner Moore, do you want to speak on it, or are you good? Okay, I'll let John be first, and you come.
All right, Brian, excuse me. Mr. Mayor and council people, since 1947, I think Apopka has the best-kept secret that we've seen in a long time that's available to preserve. You guys can find a way. This is an opportunity, I think, that has been spoken by most of you, and certainly the previous speaker. You won't find this opportunity again. This is a place that the YMCA has used as a typical YMCA camp. It is not now, or never will be that again, because y'all can change it. We as a community can pull together and make this something that everybody that sees it will want to remember it and won't have a choice. They will remember it because it is something that's not available in many places. Apopka's got as you all know, some of the best-kept secrets in Orange County and the state of Florida. And when people find them, they come back and they keep coming back. The revenue-generating opportunities, the possibilities of what's out there that we can capitalize on in the future, we don't know. I served as chairman of the board of the YMCA of Upper Pinellas and West Pasco counties, the largest single-floor YMCA in the country. It made money off a membership that used it. This is an opportunity where you don't know how much potential you've got. Financing, as Ed said, is not an issue right now. We've got the ability to put it together and then make it work. I would encourage you to not let this get away. This is a best-kept secret that deserves our undivided attention as a community to try to make it work. And those that don't know me, I published the Apopka Chief and have for a long time been in this community since 1958. It is a neat community, and I've always said it is undoubtedly the best-kept secret because a lot of people didn't know about us when they found out they moved here. I don't like that part of it, but it's happening everywhere we look. The Camp Wewa is a signature event that we can have like our Pond Can site. I still talk to people quite often that don't know that it exists. Thank goodness. Otherwise, they would be moving here also. I would suggest to you that you find a way to keep it green and to control the use of that property so it doesn't become another gated community. We've got a lot of those, and there will be every spot that they can put them because there is a shortage and a need. They cannot ever, we cannot ever develop and manufacture a Camp Wewa again. I'd encourage you to make it work, guys. Don't let it get away from us.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Christine?
Hello, I don't very often come down and speak to you about issues, but this was important to me about Camp Wewa. And I wanted to say the YMCA also approached the county so that you're aware in Tangelo Park. And so we will be taking over their gym, having to rebuild the swimming pool. And at this point, the estimate is about $3.5 million. But it's something that we're probably committed to doing. There'll be a vote on it fairly soon, and it's part of that iDrive CRA. So you're aware that this is not the only property that's been in jeopardy. There may be more, but I just want to make you aware of that. And when Mayor Nelson was Commissioner Nelson, and I guess I probably should go back before that, when you think about 1960, one of the Orange County commissioners had the vision when that lake was not in a good condition, in fact went down for another 30 years, bought Magnolia Park. And it was decades before you really have seen the wonder and the magic and the photographers and all that we're enjoying. And so part of that money back in 2015, then Commissioner Nelson put towards rebuilding and reinvigorating and revitalizing Magnolia Park, which the county is in the middle of seeing that with the docks and the playground for our special needs children and all. And so if you take this project on, it's a treasure. I just want to encourage us to work together so that we can have some connectivity. Yeah. And I drove it tonight with my 3-year-old in the car, granddaughter, looking at sidewalks, and we are missing sidewalks. You have gaps. Because whoever would have thought Binion Road was going to be subdivisions and 2 world-class parks. So I just want to encourage us to work together to get the connectivity between all of these facilities, and so that our children, we always have to think about coming from school board world, we have to consider our lowest socioeconomic children and how they're going to get there. Mm-hmm. And so I know Commissioner Smith has got some ideas about that. And so at this point, your Lake Doe children and those neighborhoods, they would not really be able to get there that safely right now. So I encourage us to work together to get the sidewalks and have the connectivity and safety for children.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. Okay. Anybody else for the good of the cause? Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you all that are looking on from YouTube. Thank you to the IT department. I think great discussion. We're just, right now we're in a holding pattern. I think, but I would plan on seeing this on March 3rd. Is it the will of the council? Would you like for Brian to put a little effort into kind of some programming? Sure. Okay. Yeah. And just financial programming and
if we were to purchase it?
I'm drawing a blank. Financial programming, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, what programs we'd put, the cost and then, and the revenues and,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, when I say the pro forma.
Yeah.
I mean, now granted, all of that's not going to be steeped in, tremendous amount of fact, but it should be directional to say, hey, we think that we can host X amount of campers per week and at a price of X, extrapolate that out. Or we know that the expense, and I think Edward, you had kind of brought it up, there's areas where we're going to be able to leverage existing city functions. So we'll reduce certain expenses on their current P&L because we can satisfy it through existing employees within the city. So all that stuff, so you build assumptions around it, and we have a confidence factor that, the revenues look sound. So yeah, yes.
Okay, so we'll have Brian do that. And anyway, well, thank you all for coming. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and have a good evening.